would you like to welcome us?
Sure, because it's almost the same crowd, right, as in the morning. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to 2018. Our 2018 will bring us a lot of interesting sessions and events through the Faculty Development Center. I hope you've heard about the Faculty Development Center. It's a new unit at the University of Maine at Augusta and system-wide. And welcome.
Great. So I just want to quickly point out a couple of things on your Zoom screen, especially if you're new to Zoom. So you have your Zoom window that you're looking at me with, and you see some thumbnails across the top as well. And as I share some things on my screen with you, it's going to blow up your whole screen. So it's going to be much bigger and fill up the whole screen. So that's called maximizing the window. And if you look up at your top right-hand corner of your screen, you see a little red X, and that's for closing the window. So don't do that right now, because then you'll be out of the room. So next to the red X, though, is another little button, a square button that says maximize. And if you click on that, it will fill up your whole window with Zoom. And the red X disappears, and it turns into an exit full screen view. And
I don't have any of those things.
Are you on a Mac or a PC?
I'm on a Mac.
Okay, so yeah, yours are on the left-hand side. You see a little red dot.
There's a little red dot that says recording.
And then above that, look at the very top of the window.
There's nothing.
Yeah, above recording, there'll be a red X, a yellow dash, and a green.
No. Oh, okay. Yes, they're gray, but.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So I don't want you to worry if the whole screen fills up and everything behind it disappears, especially if you're working in another window, because I am going to have you go between two different windows today. We're going to be working in Blackboard, but we're also going to be in Zoom. And when I share my screen in Zoom, it's going to fill up your whole screen and your Blackboard will disappear. So you can either hit escape on your keyboard, or when the window gets big, there's a little exit full screen in the top right-hand corner. The other thing you can do is you can minimize Zoom, and that's like putting it down into your taskbar or into your dock, and it disappears, but Zoom doesn't completely disappear. The thumbnail of the video will stay up there. So you could have Blackboard up, but then you can also have a little thumbnail of Zoom and have my screen still showing. Another quick thing, I'm gonna share my screen right now so you can see what happens. When I share my screen, you just saw your Zoom is now full screen. And at the bottom of your screen, there are a couple of buttons. On the bottom left-hand corner, there is a mute button. And if you want to talk, make sure that you click it so you can unmute and I can hear you. If you're not talking, though, I ask that you do mute your microphone, because if you make noises, the camera switches to you and you come up on the screen. So you can mute to listen and then unmute to talk. And then if you need to hide your video for some reason, you need to sneeze or blow your nose or step out or something, there is a button right next to it that says stop video, and your webcam will turn off and we won't see you anymore. You can ignore all these other buttons, but I do want to point out one that's called Breakout Rooms. You don't have it yet, but when I turn on Breakout Rooms, there'll be a button at the bottom of the screen where you'll go off into your own space and you'll do some work in Blackboard. And there's a raise your hand for help button in there too, so that if you do need some help while you're working on your own, we can come into your breakout room and I can go in and work with Sherry and we can talk without disturbing anyone else. So those breakout rooms, there'll be an invitation that comes up on the screen, but you can always get it by clicking on that breakout room button. And then they will close and we'll come back to the main room when we're done. So the plan for this afternoon is to talk about the Grade Center and specifically providing regular feedback for your students. They did a student survey this year on student satisfaction with UMA, and one of the 3 areas that students were most dissatisfied with was regular feedback from their instructors. So some students didn't know most of the semester how they were doing, or they would have to ask their instructor to find out how they were doing, rather than keeping track of their own progress throughout the course. And as adult learners, we know about adult learners that they need to feel empowered to check on their own progress, but they also will be more motivated and persevere more if they're able to check on their progress and see how they're doing. So I'm going to show you how to do some of those things with the Grade Center. I'll show you how the students can check on their grades, but they can also get some feedback from you too. And I'm not going to assume that you know anything about Blackboard. Things will be pretty basic here, and you'll have a couple of work sessions where you can work on your own and you can get some one-on-one help from us. How does that sound so far? Any questions? Good. All right, so in the first section of this webinar, what I'd like to talk about is the actual Grade Center itself, the columns. We'll talk about how to find work that needs to be graded and how to give some feedback and how students can check on their grades. So I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to go into a Blackboard course. So I created a Blackboard Playground course that you are all enrolled in. And when you go and work on your own, you're going to go to your, log into your Blackboard page, and you will find way down at the bottom of your list of courses, which probably is not as long as mine, this UC FDC Faculty Development Center Blackboard Playground course. You are an instructor in this course, so you will be able to do, create things. You'll be able to see the Grade Center, and you'll have like the control panel and all this stuff down here. I do want to point out up in the top right-hand corner, there is a little eyeball button, and if you can't see it, you can move the video out of the way. You can just click on the video and drag it out of the way. And you'll see this little green button up here. And when I click on that, that takes me into Student Preview. And you notice that the screen is kind of cleaned up now. So there is no control panel, and I'm actually seeing the screen like a student sees the screen. And this is important because as we create grades, we grade some assignments, things like that, we're going to practice looking at it from both the instructor and the student point of view, so you know what your students are seeing. And when you exit out of the preview, there'll be a box that comes up asking you, do you want to delete the preview user data, or do you want to keep it? And delete is recommended, but I'm going to ask you to keep the user data. And this creates a new student in your class with your name and preview user on it. So you actually have added a student to your class, and you can go in as that student and see everything. So I'm just going to hit save here and exit this preview. And we'll take a look at our control panel over here. So down at the bottom of the course menu is where you find the control panel, and this is where all the teacher tools are. And Grade Center is one of the items, and when you click on it, it expands. And there are a couple of other items under here. There's Needs Grading and Full Grade Center. First, I'm going to show you the Full Grade Center. And this is your entire grade book. So it lists all of your students, and in your particular class, if you haven't made it available yet, you won't have any students. Your students don't appear until the day after you make your course available. However, we made some preview users in the last session, so there are some fake students in here. It also shows the username of the students, the student ID, the last date that they accessed it, whether the student is available in the course. You'll want to change that if a student drops out of your class, so they don't get notifications and stuff like that. And then it comes with this weighted total column and a total column. And I'm going to talk about those in a minute. And then any other assignments or quizzes or things like that that you add to your course, Blackboard will automatically create a column in your grade center for those items. You can also manually create a column. So let's say you have a hybrid class and it meets 3 times in the semester face-to-face, and then the rest of it's online. So maybe you want to give a participation grade for those live sessions. There's nothing in Blackboard that they're submitting. So instead, there's a button here that says Create Column. So I can create a new column in here, and I can call it Participation on 2/16/18. And then if there was a due date, if it was an assignment, I could put that in there. If not, I'm just going to hit Submit. Oh, whoops, points possible. Forgot that one. I'll say 100 and Submit. And then it gets added to the end over to the right. There's a scroll bar at the bottom here. So now I have a participation column, and I can just click in here and I can just manually add grades in here. So you can click in any of the boxes and type in them to enter grades, and then I'll show you another way that you can grade assignments that are submitted. So you'll notice that some of these have grades already in them, and some of them have these yellow exclamation points. The yellow exclamation point means needs grading. So a student has submitted something here, so you can click on it and it will actually let you type in a grade or actually see the attempt. But when you're going to grade work on for students, I suggest going to this needs grading that's in the Grade Center menu over here. And what that does is it collects all of the work that students have submitted, and it puts it in a nice list here. By default, it will be sorted by the date that it was submitted, so it will show you the oldest stuff first, so you can start grading that. You can also sort it by the item, so if you want to have all of the papers together and all the discussions together, so you can organize this list here. So in order to actually go in and grade something, all you need to do is just click on the user and it will open up the grading panel. So the grading panel looks a little bit different depending on what it is you're grading. So in this case, I'm grading a paper. It's an assignment. And normally this would open up and show me a preview, but it's not doing that for some reason. But what I do have in all of my grading panels is over on the right, I have a place where I can enter the grade, and it's in this blue box here. So when I click in here, it expands a little bit. The blue box gets bigger. There's a place for me to enter a number, and there's also a place for me to add some text feedback. So I can click in here and I can type a number. We've got a 90, and I can say you did a great job covering all of the concepts. However, I had to take points off for some grammatical errors. Please see my comments. So I can put text-based feedback to the learner here as well. And then I just hit Submit. And now that grade is entered into the Grade Center, and the next item to be graded comes up on the screen for me. So I can just keep going one after another through all of the items that need grading. And if I go back to full Grade Center, now in that paper 1 column, here's that 90 that I entered. So it automatically gets synced with the Grade Center there too. Now, one thing to note about the Grade Center is that if there is nothing submitted, it just leaves these little dashes, and that does not count against the student. So if a student doesn't do an assignment, you have to manually put a 0 in there. Otherwise, it doesn't count against them. And of course, if they don't do an assignment, you want it to count against them. You want them to have that 0. So you would just put a 0 in for each student that does not submit an assignment. The other thing that is pretty helpful in the Grade Center here is that for the students that didn't submit an assignment, I can click on the drop down at the top of the column, and every time I look at one of these columns in the Grade Center, I can see that each of them have this little drop down menu next to them. So I'm going to click on the little drop down menu next to the assignment, and way up at the top of the menu, there's an option here to send a reminder. And that will send a reminder to the 5 students in here who have nothing submitted. So all it does is sends them an email. It's a canned email. You can't change what it says on there. It says you are missing the assignment titled Paper 1. So that's a nice thing to do for students that you know, have missed major assignments, rather than you trying to keep track of who's missing what and sending a bunch of emails. You just click this little drop down and hit send reminder. Yeah, Kathleen.
That's what I wanted to know. Where is that little, oh, I know, I have my pictures up there. What is it under?
So when I click the drop down, it's way at the top of the menu, and it says send a reminder.
Okay. I just don't see the drop down. My computer screen is limited evidently. Under home or under?
I'm down in the full Grade Center.
Okay. And where is the button that you clicked to get the send reminder?
At the top of any of the columns, you just click the drop down menu.
Okay. So the column in the grades thing?
Yep.
Oh, okay. All right.
Great.
If we're going to send that reminder, we
Yep.
need to send it before we put a 0 on everybody's grade who didn't submit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So I've given you a brief overview of how all of this looks on the screen, and I've shown you creating a column. The other thing I didn't show you, though, is if I go into a content area and I create something that is graded. So anything under the assessments drop down here. So a test or an assignment, or if I grade a discussion board or a blog or a journal, whenever I create one of these things, I'm going to create an assignment here. And I'll call this Final Project. And I'm going to put 100 points possible in there. And then I'm going to submit it. Now I've got this final project here, and I can tell it's an assignment because of the pencil and the ruler icon here. And when I go to the full Grade Center and I scroll way over to the right, now there's a column in there that says Final Project. So those two things are linked to each other. So you don't need to create columns in your Grade Center if you are creating the items in Blackboard. Blackboard does that work for you. And then whatever students submit is linked to that Grade Center column too. So I mentioned that you can go to needs grading, but you can also just click on an item here and go to the attempt, and that also takes you into the grading screen. And I'm not sure why these are not loading up.
It's not loading on our end either.
Yeah. Because there is a commenting tool that you can actually drop comments inside of paper. And I'm not quite sure why I can't show you that right now.
Is it only this file? Because Kathleen and I were playing with it, and it showed the content when we uploaded PDF.
I know. When I submitted this assignment earlier, not this one, but the one that I already just graded, this one, it was working. You know, the box tool was opening the preview, and yeah. So I'm not sure why it's not working right now. So the grade here, though, this 90 and this feedback to the learner, now I want to see what it looks like as the student. So I'm going to go back into my student preview button. And for the student, I can go right back to the content area where that item was submitted, and I can click on it. And I can see my paper here, and I can also see my grade, and I can see the feedback to the learner. The other place I can do it is in Tools. I can go to My Grades. And My Grades is like my own personal grade center. And the student only sees their own grades here. They don't see anyone else's grades, so it's private to them. And what the student sees in My Grades is these two columns at the top, the weighted total and the total, and we'll talk about that in a minute. And then they see each of the assignments that they're going to be submitting that are already created in the Grade Center. And you can see that these say upcoming because there is no current due date on it. They also see the grade, and they see this little comment bubble. And when they click on it, they're able to see a pop-up of that comment that I left them. So this is one way that the students can keep track of how they're doing in their class. So this total shows them that they've got 90 points so far out of 100. We're going to talk in a few minutes about percentages and points and all that stuff, so we're just going to ignore this for now. So what I'd like to do, stop sharing my screen now, is first ask for any questions, and then I'm going to give you an assignment to do.
If we are commenting on a student's submission, we don't actually have to download. So I think what I'm understanding is normally it's going to load within the window and I can comment there.
Yes, correct.
So then the student to see the comments needs again to either access or download the file.
No, they don't need to download it. When they click on the assignment again, it opens up with your comments on top.
Okay.
So there is an option that you can download the student's file. And I know that some people like to use track changes in Microsoft Word to leave comments for students. And then you could upload your version of it in the feedback to the student so that the student could then download that. So that's an option too.
Okay.
Okay, other questions so far? Okay, so we're ready for our first assignment. What I'm going to ask you to do is to create, submit, and grade an assignment, and then check your work in My Grades. So let me explain that again. First, you're going to go into the Blackboard playground class. You're going to go to a content area, and you're going to create your own assignment. And that was in the assessments drop-down and assignment. And you're going to create that assignment, and then you're going to go in as the student in the class, and you're going to upload a file to submit that assignment. Pretend you're the student doing your homework, and then you'll leave the student preview, and you'll go into needs grading, and you'll see, hey, my fabulous student just submitted an assignment for me. So you'll go in, and you'll grade it and leave some feedback there. And then you'll go back in the student preview again, put your student hat on, and say, how did I do on my paper? And you'll go into My Grades, and you'll check to see what your grade is and if there's any feedback there. Or you can go back into the content area and click on the assignment again to see it there. Those are the two ways to see it. Okay, so let me reiterate one more time. You're going to create the assignment. You're going to submit it as a student. You're going to grade it as the instructor. And then you're going to check it as the student. Are there any questions about that? And don't worry if you can't get it all done. So I'm going to create some breakout rooms. And when I start the breakout rooms, you're going to get an invitation pops up that says that you're going to, I've assigned you to a breakout room. You'll go to the breakout room and you'll be all by yourself. You won't see us anymore. And you can minimize the Zoom screen and you can go to Blackboard. And if you have some questions, you could just come back to Zoom, and there's a button at the bottom where you can raise your hand to ask us for some help. And then one of us will pop into your room and give you some help.
Does anyone think at this point that you will need help from the start? Because I'm available. I can jump into your room with you. Okay, good.
All right, so I'm going to put you all into breakout rooms, and we'll take about 15 minutes for you to get all of this done. And if you finish early, you can come back to the main room, or you can poke around and try out some other stuff. All right, so have fun.
Maybe Amber left the room or something.
I know Amber's at work, so she might be in and out.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, Box is just not opening that preview.
Yeah, it was opening an hour ago.
Yeah, I tried both a PDF and a doc. Well, that is unfortunate.
Let me check. Yeah, suddenly it stopped. Huh.
Hi, Kathleen.
I seem to have lost my session again. I don't know. It just disappeared. I don't know why.
Oh, Sherry just asked for help. I'm going to go pop into hers and I'll come back and give you a hand.
Okay, let me see if I can find.
Hello.
Hi.
What can I help you with?
I got as far as I submitted the assignment and then I went to the student preview and then I didn't know where to go from there.
Okay, so you submitted as a student, right?
No, I submitted an assignment as
you created an assignment. Okay.
Which I did just by creating a column. Is that an okay way to do it?
No, actually, we want to create an assignment. So I'm going to talk you through how to do this.
Okay.
So if you move your mouse over the screen, you see some buttons on the bottom, and there is on the Zoom window.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Yes.
So you see a green share screen button. So go ahead and click on that.
Okay.
And then go ahead and click share screen.
Okay. Oh, do you want me to do the desktop?
Yep. And then share screen.
Oh, okay. Is that working?
No.
Let's see.
There should be another share screen button that pops up.
Let me see. Now it's disappeared. Let's see. Oh, yes. Okay. Now do you see it?
Yay!
Okay.
Great. So now I can see your screen.
All right.
Okay, so let's look at your Blackboard. If you want to bring that over.
Oops. Oh, gosh, what am I doing? All right. I guess I have to go get it. Oh, this is not good. I don't know where it is, so I'm just starting over.
Oh, I can see it. Actually, you know what? I'm going to ask for control of your computer. So a little box just popped up and asked to give me permission. So I'm going to now take control of your mouse. So I can see it's way over here on the side, this little content.
Okay.
There it is.
Right.
Okay, so I'm going to drag this one over here. And then we will leave come on, come back. And we'll leave the preview.
Yes.
It doesn't seem to like my mouse very much. Exit preview. There we go. Okay, and we'll keep the user data. Okay, so when we go to content.
Okay.
And now to create an assignment, we're going to use this assessments dropdown. And then you can see the assignment.
Wait, I can't see that because something else is on top.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, okay. So I create a content when I'm in the student menu?
No. You can do it anywhere. So right now we're in the content button. So you see that assessments drop down at the top?
Yes.
Go ahead and click that. And then click on assignment.
Okay.
Okay, and then just make up a name for your assignment.
And just say how many points it's worth.
Yep.
Okay. And then submit. Now I can go to student.
Yep.
And should I see that under content?
Yep.
Okay.
Great.
Good.
There it is. So go ahead and click on that.
All right. Oh, right. Okay, so I'm going to...
Yeah, click the Browse Computer.
All right.
And just attach a file. Doesn't matter what file it is.
Okay. Where would I do that?
So yeah, just click on one of the files on your computer.
Oh, on my computer.
Yeah, you have it right up there, that box that just popped up.
Oh, all right.
Yep, just click on it and then click Open down the bottom.
Okay.
Yep, so that's attached.
All right.
Now you just hit Submit.
All right. So that was me as a student pretending to do the assignment.
Yep.
Okay.
Great. There it is. It's submitted. So now we can exit the preview and go back in as the teacher.
Okay. And how do I exit? I don't see that little eye icon anymore.
No, now it's changed to, it's on the orange bar, and now it says Exit Preview.
Oh, okay. Great.
Oops, it's behind.
Yeah. I seem to have so many things here. Oh, okay, here I am. All right, so I said exit.
And then, yep, drag your window up a little bit.
Yeah. Okay, continue.
And then, well, no, not yet. Keep the preview user and all the data.
Mm-hmm.
So check that box there.
Oh, all right.
Yep, and then continue. Great. So now you as an instructor, you can go to Needs Grading, and you'll see that paper that Sherry Fraser student just submitted.
Mm-hmm.
So there it is. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so you can click on that. And here's the paper that you just submitted. So you can click in that blue box on the right.
Oh, all right.
Where it says Attempt.
Let me just move this over a little bit more. Okay.
And yeah, the one right below it that says Attempt.
Oh, right.
Yep.
And give it a grade.
Yep. Great, and then you can type some feedback too.
Okay. And then hit submit.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep, so now that's been graded. And if you want to see what the student sees, we can go back to the student preview.
Okay.
And then if we go over in the menu to content again.
I just got access denied.
Oh, that was weird. That's all right. Here, let's move this over just a tiny bit more. And we'll go to content again.
Oh, okay.
And if you click on the essay, now you can see that feedback over there and the grade.
Where's the, oh, okay, submission. Do I look under comments?
Mm-hmm.
Feedback to learner. Oh, okay. Okay, good. Okay.
Yeah, so you can give feedback to your learners like this every week.
Mm-hmm. I usually just, I teach biology lab, so I usually just hand back their paper with comments on it to them.
Yeah, so this would be if you wanted to electronically do that instead of, you know, handwritten paper stuff.
Right.
Yep.
Okay.
So up at the top of the screen, you can hit that red button that says Stop Sharing.
Mm-hmm.
Great, and then we are going to end our breakout rooms and head back to the main room.
Okay, thanks.
This is for the library science program.
Wow.
Yeah. I think when you talk about delivery of course content, if you can't thrive in an information setting like that, you should probably reconsider what you're doing with yourself as a library science student.
People sign up from all over the country, right? For that.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was working at the New York Public Library when I got my associates. I did an internship with the New York Times. I was in the city when I finished my bachelor's. I'm doing grad work at Drexel now. I live in Boston. I work at the Boston Athenaeum.
Wow. So you're
Yeah,
calling in from
digital
Boston?
access is awesome.
Wow.
I'm muted again. I'm talking and no one's listening to me. So does anyone have anything they want to share about what they discovered when they were doing this?
I still have trouble going from Blackboard to the Zoom, but I'm assuming I won't have that problem when I'm teaching. So
No.
I'm just using Blackboard, so.
Yep. Yeah, that it does. Switching around through windows can be
I keep
a
losing
bit of a
one.
challenge. So unfortunately, that the commenting feature is not working right now. They did just switch over to, they just upgraded Blackboard and switched over to a new commenting on papers feature. So I have a feeling there might just be a technical glitch there. But what will happen is instead of just seeing a button that says download the assignment, you'll be able to see the actual paper that the student submitted, and you'll be able to click on it and type comment on there. So you can actually point to a specific phrase or word or things like that and leave specific comments. So that can be really helpful for students. So the other thing was the feedback button on the side, box on the side where you can actually type in comments to students of a general nature about the assignment. And excuse me, I'm going to share my screen again, and I'm going to go back to our course here, and I'm going to exit the preview. And I'm going to add a tool link to the course menu by clicking that little plus button, and I'm going to say my grades, and I'm going to add my grades from this tool menu, and I'll make it available to users, and then I'll hit submit, and now my grades is added to the course menu. So then the student can click on that anytime and keep updated with how they're doing in their class. And you can see I don't have any grades because I'm in here as an instructor right now, but the student would see their grades. So let's talk a little bit more about the Grade Center. So I'm going to go back to the full Grade Center here. And I mentioned points and percentages. And I also mentioned that there are these two columns here, weighted total and total. And you can see that this total column has some numbers in it. And basically what it's doing is it's just adding up all the points in that row and totaling them up. So right now, the Ann Fancy Preview user has a total of 90 points because she earned 90 points on that paper number 1. Doesn't have any other points on the other ones though, and none of them are filled in, so nothing's counting against her. So if she actually didn't do this assignment, I would put a 0 into each one of those. And you see that the total is not changing because she still just has earned 90 points. However, the possible points does change as you enter those zeros. So she could have earned a total of, if I put my mouse here at the top of the total column, you can see right above it in this gray bar, you see some information. It says total grade possible up to 820 points, may vary by student. So 90 points out of 820 is not a very good grade. It's in the definitely in the failing range. So if I added some better grades in here, you would see that total add up. Whoops, not 800, just 80. And you can see that it's just adding up these numbers as I enter them. And again, this total out of 820, 460 is an awful lot better. But still, as a student, I am wondering, what on earth does that mean? What am I actually getting for a grade here? So if you plan to use totals, use points for your assignments and have everything just weighted by points, I'd suggest making a change to this column. So really there's two different ways that you can organize how you grade your materials. One is by just having everything weighted against each other by the amount of points that you give it. So for example, if you made your exam worth 100 points, and you only wanted the term paper to be worth half as much as the final exam, you would make that term paper 50 points. And then if you wanted the discussion boards to be worth much fewer points, you might say each discussion board is worth 3 points. So they only count, 3% of the final exam grade. So basically, you would just keep accruing points like money in the bank, and you would divide that by how many points you have possible. Some people will set up their grades in their syllabus so that they add up to 100 points. So they might say you have 12 discussions over the course of a semester and they're each worth 3 points. So you'll get 36% of your grade, or 36 points will be in discussion. 40 points will be in the 2 exams. They're each worth 20 points. So you can set up your grade center that way, or what is more traditional is that people assign 100 points to everything and they grade on a 100-point scale. And you might be more familiar with that, or you may have grown up with that, where every grade that you got was always out of 100. But say you still want to make that final exam worth twice as much as the paper. Then what you do is you use weights. You say that the category of exam is worth 20% of the grade, and the paper is worth 10% of the grade. That way the exam counts twice as much as the paper. So talking about all these numbers might be just causing a whole lot of anxiety, so I'm actually going to show you some of this. So I have a weighted total column, and instead of just totaling up items, I'm going to weight some categories against each other. So I'm going to edit this weighted total column, and I do that by just clicking that little drop down. And then I edit the column information. And when I click edit column information, it lets me change the settings on this column. So I'm just going to scroll through all this stuff until I get to this section here in the middle of the page. And this is how I can change so that one assignment is worth more than another. So everything that we've created so far is worth 100 points, but say I want all of the, let's see, we don't have any discussions, but let's say we have discussions. I'm going to click on discussion as a category, and I'm going to hit this little arrow and move it over. And I'm going to say discussions are worth 20% of the grade. And then I have tests. I'm going to click that, hit the arrow to move it over, and then I'll say tests are worth 50% of the grade. So far, that's 70% of the grade, and that leaves me 30% left. So we'll say, how about assignments? I'll move that over. Assignments are now worth 30% of the grade. So that adds up to 100%, tests at 50, assignments at 30, and discussions at 20. Now I'm going to go ahead and hit submit. And now I can see in this weighted total that there are actually percentages in here. And I have 398%, which is because one of these is not worth, okay, this is worth 10 points. So let's make this 8. Whoops. And this one is worth 10 points. So we'll make this 10. And this one is worth 10 points. So we'll make this 9. Okay, so now you can see that my grade is actually 74%. And that's because it's calculating all of these, regardless of how many points it actually is. It's taking them all and it's saying that they're all part of that assignment category, and it's weighting them as that part of the grade. So I'm going to add another column in here. I'm going to create a column, and I'm going to call this final exam. And I'll make it 100 points. And in the category, I'm going to say this is a test. And now I'll hit submit. Okay, so my grade is still a 74% until I add my grade into the final exam. If I get 100% on this final exam, what do you think that's going to do to my grade? It brought it up an awful lot. Now I have a 90. And that's because, remember, the exams were worth 50% of the grade. So that A for the exam counted way more than these other assignments, which were only worth 20% of the grade. So conversely, if I bombed the exam and I got a 60, and then I go and look at the weighted total, now my grade dropped down to 65 from 70 before, because that category is worth so much more. Now you notice these other people, like if we look at Danny, he's got an 80. But once I start putting zeros in here, now his grade is dropping. So maybe Danny does great on exams. He's got 100 on that exam. He's got a 77 in this class, even though he's getting zeros on some of his assignments, because the assignments are only worth 20% of the grade. So Blackboard is doing all those calculations for me. I don't have to get out a spreadsheet, an Excel spreadsheet, and figure out what are all the assignments worth, what are the tests worth, and then do a formula to balance those together. I can set up that column, and I can let Blackboard do the work for me. So usually people have one or the other, either the weighted total or the total column. So if my class is factoring grades based on weights, then I would actually get rid of this total column. I would just hide it. Actually, I can't do that because it's got the green check mark next to it. So I'm going to go to the weighted total. I'm going to set this as the external grade. So now this has got the green check mark next to it. And I'm going to go to my total column and delete it. And weighted total, I don't think is a great name for the column for students. So I'm going to call this course grade. And I think that's much more helpful for students. So if I go back in as a student and I look at my grades, then I can see my course grade is a 65. And if I scroll through here, I can see why. It's because I got pretty good grades on these, but I got a 60 on the exam. And there's still one more thing that hasn't been graded yet. So maybe if I do a decent job on this one, it's in the assignment category, it'll just bump me up a tiny bit. So what I'd like to hear from you is, how do you organize your grades? Do you use points or do you use percentage?
I use points.
Okay. Can you tell me a little bit about it?
Well, mine is, I teach biology labs, and so that grade, the total grade that they get in biology lab is 40% of their lecture grade. Or 40% of the total grade is lab. So I just give them like whatever, 20 points for tests. There's a couple tests, 5 points for lab questions and 10 points for genetic problem sets, things like that, and it adds up to 100.
Okay.
So they know what they're getting in lab, but they don't know, unless they multiply that by 0.4, they have to figure out how it's going to affect their lecture grade.
Yep. So you could actually keep that in the Blackboard Grade Center and the students wouldn't have to do the math.
Mm-hmm.
They could know as they're going through, as they accumulate points for the labs and for the other coursework, they can kind of keep a running tally of how they're doing.
Although the lecture and lab have different Blackboard accounts.
Oh, they're two different sections. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I think they just have to do that. They just have to multiply.
Yep. So what else? Danny, what are you using?
It looks like the core, because I'm going to be essentially delivering content that's being handed to me, and it looks like it's set up just in points.
Okay.
Yeah, it looks like it just divides everything up by 100.
All right. Then that's pretty simple.
Makes it easy, yeah.
Yep. How about you, Kathleen?
I'm going to have to use weighted because I have several different assignments and they count different amounts.
Mm-hmm.
But I also have a take-home test every class. So those will have to be added up and then given a weight. So I'm assuming I have to add a column for the total for all of those first and then add that to the weighted total.
Actually, you don't need to. So I'm going to go back to this full grade center and show you what I mean. So if I go back to this course grade and I edit this column information, I can see that my discussions are 20%, my tests are 50%, and all the assignments are 30%. So you could say, all right, these are the take-home exams. They're worth, what did you say, 20% of the grade or 10%?
20%.
20%? Okay. So you don't need to create a column to calculate all of that. You just let Blackboard do that work for you. It will calculate it, and it will always make it 30% of the grade.
So every time I add one of those, how do I tell the computer, though? Because they'll each be separate grades.
Yep. So then you're going to need to work on categories. So in the Manage drop-down menu here is where in the Full Grade Center you'll find categories. And this is how you can organize all of the items in your grade center. So there are some default categories that Blackboard comes up with. So like when you create an assignment, it puts it in the assignment category. So all those assignments we made, they're all in that assignment category. However, you can create your own categories. So I'm going to click that Create Category button, and I'm going to say Weekly Tests, and then submit that. And now I've got a new category called Weekly Tests. And then I can make, another category called Lab Reports. So I make whatever categories I need, and then I'll say OK. And now I'll go back to Manage, and I'm going to do Column Organization. And I can see all of my my Grade Center columns, and I can see which category they're in. And let's say this week 1, maybe that's not an assignment. Maybe that is a weekly test.
Oh,
So I changed the category there, and now I can see that that is now weekly tests. And then maybe this paper number 1 is not an assignment, it's a lab report. And now I can see that that's been changed to the lab report category. Okay, so I can actually check off a bunch of these things and move them at the same time to a particular category. And then when I'm done, I just hit Submit, and it's automatically readjusted all of those things to the right category so that they are factored into the grade correctly.
Can you go through that once more?
Sure, yep. So I'm using Manage Categories to create those categories. And you can use the default categories that come with Blackboard, or you can create some of your own. And you do that by clicking the Create Category button. You give it a name. Oh, I can't do, let's just say reports. And now that's in my list of categories. And I'll hit OK. And then to change categories, I go back to Manage, and I do Column Organization. It's not terribly intuitive that that's where you change categories. But you do Column Organization, and then you just check the box for the item that you want to move, and then you use the Change Category drop-down menu here to select a different category. And then when you're done, you hit Submit. Now, the other thing that you can do in that Manage Column Organization is organize your columns. So that is a pretty intuitive name. So if you decide that you created things, but you didn't create them in order, so now they're out of order in your grade center, you can say, okay, this final project actually should be down here by the final exam. You can click it and you can drag it down. And that way they'll be next to each other in the grade center. And then I'll move this week 1. I'll move this up here. And I'll do this, write a poem up here. Okay, so you can reorder how the columns look in your grade center. So I just hit Submit. And now week 1, write a poem, paper 1, those are all there. And if I scroll over to the right, final exam, final project, those things are all together too. And that also changes in the student's view of my grades. So you might want to think about how these are ordered for the student, because if they're just randomly in an order, then sometimes that can be a little confusing for students. So maybe you put things in chronological order, or you can put things in order of all the papers together, all the lab reports together, so you can organize them by category instead. And this makes it easier for the students to keep track. Sherry, you have a question? You're muted.
There.
There we go. Yep.
Now I can't see any of you though.
We're still here.
Okay, I can still ask my question even though I can't see you. When I'm entering grades and I have a lot of columns, so say I'm entering grades into the last column, but the students' names are on the first column, is there some way to collapse the screen in an easy way so that I can have the column I'm grading right in the column right next to their names?
Oh, you mean you're over here on the right side and it's not, Really, the only way to do that is to just shrink your window.
Okay.
I mean, and it's only going to go so far. There's no way to get it all the way over, get the last column over, all the way next to the names. But it does highlight the column, highlight the row for you. So if you click here, you can see that over here it's highlighted. So I know which one I'm on.
Okay. I can't see anything right now. So let's see. Where am I?
Looking.
Oh, okay. I found it. Sorry.
Oh, great.
But I still can't see you. But
yeah, just my screen. Yep.
No. Oh, not even your screen. Oh, okay. Now I'm back there. So, right, it lights up the column that you're on.
Can you copy the last name column over to the end?
That's what I wondered.
Actually, you can quickly make that change and then change it back, because obviously you don't want your names at the end of your column.
Right.
But you can just take, your last name here, and then, come on, here we go. Oh, Oh, it's frozen. Okay, drag this bar. There we go. Last name. Oh. Huh. It's not letting me move it down there. No, I guess you can't put the...
But you could move the other one up, maybe.
Yes. Yep. You could
Try
certainly
that.
move that up to the top. And then while you're grading it, just go ahead and hit submit.
Mhm.
And then when you're done, you know, you've got the final project over here and you've got the other stuff next to it. And then when you're
Right.
done, go back and move it to the end.
And that's all under manage.
Yep. Manage column organization.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And that manage column organization is where you can also hide some of these other ones. So like you don't need to see their username, their student ID, availability, all that. You can check those off and hide those columns. I do like to keep last access though. So I'm going to submit that. And you can see that that has kind of cleaned up the grade center a little bit for me with first, last, and then last access. And then I get to the actual grades. And that last access shows the last time that they logged into Blackboard. Danny, you're muted.
It's the last time they've logged into Blackboard, not necessarily this course.
No, this course, last time they logged into this class. Which is always a pretty interesting thing to check out because you might discover a student who hasn't been in a couple weeks. One other thing that I think might be kind of helpful is under the Manage columns, this grading color codes. And you can enable them. By default, they're turned off. And you can change how some things look. So for example, if something needs grading, you can highlight it with like red and apply it. And I'll hit submit. And now these things really stick out to me. I could say, oh, geez, I need to go grade that. What I like to do, though, I'm going to change that one back to white. Where is white? Here, let's just make... Oh, whoops, black, white. I like to change about the grades. So I want grades that are less than 70 to end up with a yellow. And I'm going to add criteria, and I'll say grades that are less than 60 get a red. And I'll change that text to white. So it's easier to see. And then I'll submit. And I can see, ooh, those really jump out. Those grades that are failing grades, those ones really jump out. The ones that are kind of in a warning area, they're not so good, they're yellow. So you can set up your own color scheme to like really highlight things for you so that it's quick and easy to see in the grade center. If you do use the points, which I know that some of you said you do, I'm going to go ahead and put that total column back in. And I'm going to submit that. So here's my total points. And instead of just showing a number, you might consider editing that column and showing it as a percentage instead. So if I'm halfway through the semester and I have 45 points, out of 100 points, to me that doesn't seem like it's a good grade. But if I actually do that 45 out of however many I could have earned at this point, 50, then I suddenly realize, oh, I have a 90%. I'm actually doing pretty well. So showing things in a percentage might be helpful for students. So in order to do that, I just clicked the drop down. I did edit column information. And then I changed the display here, the primary display. You can show it as a score, a letter, complete or incomplete, percentage. You can actually even have text. Okay, so you have another assignment now. You're going to go and get your hands dirty. And what I'd like you to do is to go into your own class and go into your own grade center and start setting up how you would like to have your grade center set up. So we'll come and pop into rooms for you, or you can just, oh, I'm sorry, I just saw a chat from Amber. Do students see the color scheme? No, students do not see the color scheme. Only the instructor does. Andre and I will pop into some rooms, or you can ask for help. You can use the little button at the bottom of the screen in your breakout room. Any questions before we go off and do some work? And yes, you're going to go into your real class, and we'll come around and give you some help.
And my class isn't available yet, but could I just use last fall's class?
Sure. Yep.
Okay.
Andre, do you want me to put you in one of the rooms? You're muted. I can't hear you.
I'm sorry. Yes. Yeah. Put me somewhere. Yeah.
All right. How about with Kathleen?
Amber came back. I see that.
Yep.
Are you putting me to Kathleen?
Yeah, I did. You just have to click breakout rooms again.
Oh.
Sorry. I didn't know you were waiting for me.
I don't actually have a shell for my class yet. So
Really?
Really? Yeah, so I just went in, Jody might have one, and I'll just be like stepping in beside her because we're
Oh,
close.
okay. Oh, okay.
But I looked in some of the other ones that I have access to.
Mhm.
Some are weighted, some are points. I like some of the words that they use. Evolving course grade.
Yeah. That's nice.
Yeah. I feel pretty confident.
Good. Good.
Is there, so UMA or UMaine is leaning in to have conversations about, or there was feedback that students aren't getting enough feedback.
Mhm.
So there's an expectation that we'll be providing more of that. Is
Mhm.
there an outline of the kind of feedback you'd like us to be giving, or you just want there to be an open conversation of some kind?
Now, there are no guidelines at this point. Just really just an effort and desire to provide students with more feedback. I think students are we're primarily looking for grades. Because some of the comments they had said that sometimes they submit a paper and they don't get it back until the end of the semester with any feedback on it. So, ideally, if you can provide them something weekly, I think is really, um, really appreciated by students. And especially something where they can kind of keep track themselves. And that's where, using the Grade Center can be really helpful because they can go in themselves and just check on things and look at feedback. All right, so we're all back. So anyone have anything they want to share about their grade center?
Well, I didn't get it done because I was having a hard time figuring out how to get into it again.
Yeah.
But Andre helped me a lot. So
Good.
I'll probably get it done. If not, I'll definitely be on my phone to you guys.
Yep.
We'll need to continue with that. Yeah.
Okay.
We just started. Yeah.
All right.
Great. And the grade center is something that is unique to each class, really. So the point of today was to kind of give you an overview of the tools and what's possible. But really, every class is so different. So it would be hard for us to have everyone's grade center all set up in one setting.
Oh, that's a relief. Thank you.
Yes. So please do contact us for more individual assistance. Any other things that we'd like to share? All right, well, you hopefully know how to contact us. You can get us at 262-7979, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. You can also click on this link to Zoom again. You don't need an appointment or anything. You just click on it, and one of us is sitting there waiting to take your virtual call and to help you with anything. So please feel free to drop into the Zoom room. You can also email us at uc-fdc@maine.edu. And we're happy to provide you any kind of assistance that you need as you get your course set up or throughout the semester. So thank you guys for coming today. Really appreciate your work. We will also send you a link to the recording once it has been uploaded, and we'll also send you an evaluation form so we can get some of your feedback about how your session was today.
Okay, well,
So thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much.
Very much.
Enjoy the rest of the day. Bye-bye.
Bye.